So we're going to get started now. If everyone is coming in to join us, I want to thank everyone for joining us on the Freedom Builders live today. So I started my investment series in March, the 4-part series. So the first one was defining your why and how to find your property. Second one, we had Ned as a guest with Go Prime, talked about your financing options. And then part 3, we're talking about property management. So today I've invited a guest who is Triangle Mortgage is her sweet spot. Her name is Shalon Anderson with Above All Property Management. I've used Shalon with a couple of my investor clients, wealth of knowledge, a few things that we want to talk about today. I'll let her introduce herself and tell you a little bit about what she does. But there are some key factors that I wanted to talk about to kind of build upon what we spoke about in our series, we've been talking about in our series. So I'll let Shalon, so you can introduce herself, tell you what she does.
Okay, hi, I'm Shalon Anderson. I am the owner, founder of Above All Property Management. Been doing property management for 17 years. Prior to that, I was in the mortgage world as an investigative auditor. And so looked at a lot of fraud, saw a lot of yucky stuff in that world. But a lot of my skill sets just transferred when I went into real estate. Tried my hand at general brokerage for a little bit. It was not a good match. And I found a home in property management, started Above All Property Management in 2010 and never really looked back. Yeah.
Well, I would say Shalon is really great at what she does. Some of the things, can you share some of the services that you offer to landlords and investors in the area?
Sure. So I have some notes here because I'm unlike Dondria. I don't do this often, and so I like to have a little security blanket. But a couple of the services that we particularly offer as property management is, well, we have 5 different services. We have an owner's concierge. A lot of people these days are too busy to take care of the things that they need to take care of in their own homes. Servicing the HVAC system, making sure that people can actually get into the home. So we do that. We call it our owner's concierge. If you want me to check on the painting, whatever it is that you need done in your home, you make one phone call rather than having to call a multitude of different companies to get everything done. So we do that for you. We have a vacant home monitoring service for people that are not yet going to be in their home. They're buying it 3 to 6 months out, and they want somebody to go over there once a week, walk the property, check the water, check everything, especially convenient in the winter months when you need to make sure that everything's winterized. But our 3 main property management services that we offer are do-it-yourself landlord assist. And that's where we use all of our skill sets to find a really great tenant to place. I really feel like putting a great tenant in the home is the hallmark of what we do. If you don't have a great tenant who loves the home and is going to take care of it, you're going to have a miserable life, no lie. And I like a good life. And I want a good life, and so do my investors. And so we are able to place a really great tenant for them. And we have different fees associated with all of that. I can talk about that individually with you if you want to hear more about that. We have a second program. We call it our full service a la carte, because some people just are attached to a number. They get this number in their head and they go, I don't want to pay more than X. And so we have that a la carte program. That's really the best for somebody who's going to be buying brand new construction. It's under home warranty, not a whole lot going on other than taking care of the counting, doing some inspections and overseeing the major aspects of the home and the tenant. And then we have what I call is our platinum program. It's really where there's no worries. You just don't have to do much of anything other than make a decision when I call you or when one of our staff members calls you. And that is what I just call, like I said, no worries. You pay us and we do everything else for you, except for pay your mortgage and pay your homeowner's insurance. We don't do that because there's too much liability in case a tenant is late on their rent. I would not want that owner to have a bad thing going on their credit report. So those are our main programs. And I really find that most of our people they want the platinum program. They don't want to have to worry about things once they, once they buy the deal, they're like, okay, I'm done. Here, take care of it.
You just want to turn it back over to someone else.
They do, they do. And I would say probably 75 to 80% of our investors do that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was gonna ask that question. Is that what I wrote down? Where are you seeing people kind of gravitating towards here in the market right now?
Well, for right now, with the programs that we offer, I see, like I said, about 80% of our owners are going to the platinum program. They do what they do best, and that's what they do to make money, right? If you're a software engineer and you get called in the middle of the day to take care of a water emergency, what are you going to do? What are you going to make more money doing? So it's a common sense thing, and I know the old saying is that common sense is not always commonly practiced, but if you let your investor client know what's available out there for them, and then you kind of buy into it as well, they're going to tag along with you. They're going to get a hold of your fire and go, oh, that's right. Well, why would I, as a software engineer or a doctor or a whoever, right? Why would I want to, in California, have to long distance manage that home here in Cary, North Carolina, when my trusted advisor, my real estate agent, told me that Above All Property Management is the best company to go with? So it's like, it's a full circle relationship. It's kind of like the relationship that you would have with your lender or with your home inspector, right? Or your closing attorney. You kind of have to understand the mindset of an investor is not necessarily, let me fix that leaky faucet. It's, what's the return on my investment? How much money am I going to make?
Yeah.
And is this going to free me up to make the money that I can make?
Right.
So it just has to make sense to them.
Right. And I like the fact that you said that. It's something that we as agents, when we're working with our investors, have to educate our clients on what their options are. Because so many times I've had investors that I'm working with and they want to save that money because they want to net the most money. So they're like, well, I don't want to pay 8% or 10% or whatever the industry average is. And, they want to pocket that money and have the cash flow. I mean, it's a little bit hard to have as much cash flow as it is right now in the market with overpaying for homes. But you're offering a full concierge service, but you also offer additional services, which I think that they're not aware of. And not everybody's educated on. So.
Right. And it's like anything else. I mean, I would encourage you not to try to sell my service or any other property manager's service. You sell what you sell best, and that's homes, right? And then you just plug in around you the best people that you know that take care of whatever that is, right? You're not going to bring them to, an attorney that you don't trust. You're not going to bring them a home inspector that you don't trust. And so likewise, when you bring them a property manager, then there's a link. I call it a warm link of trust, is that it's no longer a cold lead. It's a warm relationship. If anybody that LaDondria sends our way, well, first of all, I'm going to chat LaDondria up. I'm going to tell her client that she's the best at what she does. But I also say that about every other one of you, right? So just so you know that, we don't ever say, oh, well, LaDondria doesn't know what she's talking about. Let me tell you what I know. That's not our approach to how we feel like is the best service that we can offer you. So why wouldn't I chat you up? Why wouldn't I say, yeah, LaDondria is going to give you that best information. And once I come back around and say that, it just kind of builds a more, a trusting relationship. It's kind of hard to build trust in a phone call or in a Zoom or whatever. But over time, they're gonna kind of figure it all out.
Yeah, and it's been several times where I'm out showing homes to clients, and I'll call Shalon. I'm like, hey, I'm showing homes over here in Nightdale. Can you tell me what the rents are in this area? Especially if my client's leaning towards it, and very responsive to be able to help me with that, because I want to be able to, do a quick little cap rate calculation. And, I don't always know all the answers, but I like to have resources to be able to do that. So we trust the experts. One of the questions that I get often is finding the tenants. What's kind of your process of finding the right tenant for the home? I think that's one of the biggest concerns for a lot of investors. It's like, who am I going to rent to? Who's going to, who's living in this area, that type of thing. But what's kind of your process of helping find tenants?
Well, we use our local MLS, of course, and then if you all know this or don't, but it populates out through Hub suites. I don't know what they call it now, the hub something. Anyway, it goes out to about 200 different websites and web portals. Zillow now charges rentals. People that advertise their rentals, they charge us a separate fee. So I go ahead and I pay that extra fee because I want to be on all of the websites that all of the companies are on. And so all of the Zillow group, which includes Trulia and Zillow Rents. So we get out there for the Zillow with all the Zillow leads. We also advertise on our personal website. We get a lot of organic clicks on our website. I guess word's just getting around. And then we put it on Facebook, we put it on our Instagram, and we just try to hit every avenue. We go through Tour Factory. Tour Factory goes to a lot of different video sites, as well as YouTube. The only problem I find with Tour Factory is that once the property becomes pending or rented, they remove it from all of the websites. So, but that's a battle I'm not willing to go fight right now. We do what we do. We have, for instance, a house in Cary 2 weeks ago. It was in Midtown Cary. So the rental price was $1,650 and we got 430 inquiries. That, trust me, you have to respond to every one. Yes, you do, because people get ticked off and they will go give you a bad review. And if you don't respond to them. And so you respond to every inquiry. And so from the 430 inquiries on that one property, we got 23 applications. Trust me, it takes a long time to do those applications. Yeah.
Can you do the same thing like with buying houses where you take the highest rent? Are people offering?
Well, that's what we did. That's what we did. And that was, to be honest with you, that was my idea. My husband is also in the sales world of real estate. And so I hear him doing stuff like that. I'm like, I wonder if that would work in real estate, in rentals. And so I approached the owner, my principal, and I said, hey, what if we do this? What do you think? There's a chance that some of them are going to just leave and go, I don't want to compete. But there's a chance that some of them or many of them will say, yeah, I'll pay X higher. And so we ended up getting for this particular property, $270 more than list price and $470 more than they got last year. You think their cap rate increased a little bit there? And so when you start nitpicking about the 8%, the 9%, the 6%, the whatever percent you're paying on a monthly basis, but you get a return on your investment like that because they hired me, I think it's kind of I think it's worth it. So anyway, you can do that. And it was my first time ever doing that. And so it was a little scary, to be honest, because I didn't know if that people were going to respond well or not, but they did. And for the people that really did qualify, we offered to transfer their applications to any of the other homes that we had available so as not to miss out on an opportunity that they may. Applications in our company are good for 90 days. So I did tell them, just keep a lookout and see if there was anything else that they liked within their price point. And let us know. So
Well, that's really good for your other clients who have their, upcoming renewals too. So
yeah, it is.
Do people have to pay to put in an application?
Absolutely. Our application fee is based on $75 per individual or married couple. A married couple has a merged credit profile. And so it's a little bit easier, not as much work that we have to do. And so we give them a little bit of a break. But we haven't gone up on our application fees. So a lot of people are like, well, is that a source of revenue for you? No, it isn't. It's a break even for us. So by the time we pay for the credit report, we pay for all the background stuff, we pay for all the re-verifications of everything, we're kind of just breaking even, but I think it's just timely. It's worth it. It's not a source of revenue for us. I don't want to gouge people that don't get the properties and they have to go 5 other places. So.
Now you did touch on the cap rate.
Yeah.
And our first series, we talked about the capitalization rate and how to calculate what you're going to have as return. So how does that relate when you're talking to your investors? Like when you're helping them figure out what rent they're going to get and what, they're anticipating what they need to get from the property? How do you do that?
Well, you're a very seasoned
Yeah.
investor. So you can probably figure all that out in your mind
Mhm.
because of the amount of properties that you have worked with.
Mhm.
You already know what the cost is for a particular price of home. So that's not always as evident to most investors, especially if it's a new purchase, because we don't know what is the condition of the home, first of all. Are we going to have to go in there and paint, replace appliances, do flooring? What are we going to have to do? What is the cost associated with that? Or is it turnkey? And if it's turnkey and it's brand new, that's going to be a real easy cap rate to kind of figure out. And so I just wrote this down for everybody, just in case you want to know. Your cap rate is determined by your net operating income. Okay, so that's your rent, subtract any of your operating expenses. That includes your management fees, your leasing fees, any of that, vacancy rate, potential vacancy rate, repairs. If you round all of that together, if you take a 25% of whatever that monthly income, that monthly rent is, then you're going to find about an average of what your net is going to be. Okay. So sorry, let me finish that. Sorry. Net operating income divided by current market value times 100. That's your capitalization rate. And so here's the thing. Do you have to know everything about everything? No, you don't. If you let people know, because of that 25% I just told you, if you let people know, if you put it at least 30% down, you're going to be in a cash flow position. That's easy peasy to tell somebody, put 30% down, you're going to be in cash flow. Not much, right? Because an investor is typically into it to hold it for a little bit. They don't want to flip it in a year or two.
Yeah.
So you have to kind of get in the mindset of, do they need the cash flow because it's just sexy to them? Or do they need the cash flow because it's like part of their living expenses? Or do they even need cash flow? Right? Because you don't get cash flow off of the stock market. You put money in there every single month. You don't get money back every single month. You may get a dividend check if you're lucky. But so if they think of it more in terms of a long hold rather than I need cash flow.
Yeah. And it's just like what I said when in the first series, it's like, when do you want your money? Like,
Right.
What is your goal for the property? Do you need your cash flow now, later? You want the appreciation? So it's the same thing.
Yes.
It really helps define like what property you're going to buy. You touched on a little bit about prepping a home for the market.
Yes.
So I know that in the last series, I talked a lot about, where you purchased the home, what does it look like in comparison to other homes that have rented,
Right.
Those type of things as far as what you do to the home. And I also educated my buyers and investors, like the investors are saying, hey, I'm wearing my home buyer hat versus my investor hat.
Right.
So I always I have to constantly remind people that we're wearing an investor hat today. So,
Yeah.
But I definitely want to see from your perspective of what are the basic things you want to do to help prep a home for the market to get a renter?
Okay. So I think I have notes on that.
Okay.
Okay. So here's the thing. Condition of the property. All right. So renters want the same thing owners want. They want someplace clean. They want someplace that they perceive as safe. Right. And that is going to be different for everybody else, for everybody. We all have different wants, likes, dislikes, but everybody's got the same basic needs. Everybody. So if it has a dishwasher, great. If it doesn't, it's not necessarily a bad thing. So in the scheme of what I look at in making a home rent ready is, what is my price point of that home? Do I have a $1 million home? Well, it better have all the bells and whistles, right? It better be spectacularly clean. I better not smell anything. It better just like sparkle when I walk in. That's going to take a lot more prep, right? Than a house that may be sold for $150,000. It's one of these condos over here off of Kildare Farm, and it's sold for $150,000. So it's got to be clean and neat, and it's already in a great location. Does it have to have all of the updates? Not necessarily. I mean, I wouldn't, if it's got 1970 flower wallpaper, I'd probably try to convince them to do something with that. But it doesn't have to have all of the fancies, because different people are at different stages in their life. And so you just have to kind of look at what price point you're in, and then kind of put a renter's hat on and say, well, if I was going to rent this home, not can I afford it, not do I want to live there, but if I were going to live there, what would I want you know,
Mhm.
and typically speaking, people can live a lot more simple than what they think they can.
Right. I'll also find the same, and I've mentioned it before, is that renters are renting for a reason. You know, they've got their
Exactly.
basic needs that need to be met. You know, I need 3 bedrooms and a
Mhm.
yard for my kids to play in. You know,
Right.
it's something specific. And I think sometimes as agents and investors, we overthink it, you know, about, well, you know, I had one client, I always use that example, was like he changed all the toilets and the door hinges. You know, it's like that's what he wanted, you know.
Yeah,
But those weren't things that needed to be done to the home to make it rentable. So, so yeah, I think that's one of the things that helps when you're making a purchase and deciding to make a purchase. Not to overthink it, but you know, do take in consideration the mindset of of renters.
right,
So,
right. Renters look a lot for storage room. You know, they 4 bedrooms right now are really performing so much better than anything else because of where our world has gone. People are working from home a lot. People that could go back into the office are choosing to do the work from home thing. And so I find that the 4 bedrooms are right now performing much better. They're clicking off the market faster. Not to say that the 3 and the 2 bedrooms are not performing well. It's just I see them on the market a little bit longer than I'll see a 4 bedroom in the same area.
cool, that's interesting. I didn't realize that.
Yeah.
So now, as far as the vacancy rate goes, how do you typically determine that? Because I know everyone always wants to know.
Okay, well, vacancy rate. Okay, so I don't know, like on a per property basis. I know for my whole firm, we're less than 5% vacancy. But it's because of all of the preemptive work that we do.
Mhm.
I know when every property is coming up for renewal. I don't wait until it's time to renew. We're reaching out to those people 2 to 3 weeks prior to renewal, pardon me, a month prior to renewal, so that I can get an idea of, is it gonna go back on the market, whatever. So as far as our owners are concerned, maybe 3 to 5 days in between tenants. Now, if it's a brand new property and we've never had a tenant in there before, it depends on the time of year that it's going on the market.
Okay.
Unfortunately, we've suffered some vacancy in January that it is what it is. People are not moving in January, not much at all.
Yeah.
And so at least not in the outer lying areas where some of these homes were.
Okay. Now I have a 2-part question for that. And so so what do you typically see as far as, because I do have investors that say, well, I'm going to wait to purchase in spring because people won't move in like the holiday seasons, in December towards the end of the year. Is that,
It's not always the case.
no?
And again, I think it is very dependent upon the area.
Mhm.
I have a home that was active in February over in Morrisville, $34.95 a month, not a small house. It went in like a week. I had a really nice home, not as extravagant as this one in Morrisville, but it was in another area. It was further out off of 1010, past 401. It sat on the market for 60 days. And it was cheaper. It was still a very, very nice home. It's just that it has everything to do with the location. And I personally find if an owner has the pocketbook for it and they have the ability, there's like this 30-minute drive from RTP wherever that is almost like this golden area. And so I personally think that when and I hope that I'm right so that I don't have to come back and go, whoops, sorry, messed that one up. But I think that when 540 goes through, I think I was telling you this, when 540 goes through from where it is now, Holly Springs to 40, if they're not buying right now and sucking it up for the few months of vacancy they may have, maybe in the slower months, well, that's not wise. I don't think that's wise at all. That wouldn't be a good decision. But it just every investor has a different tolerance for risk.
Yeah. Everyone's at different places in their,
Exactly.
and purposes and for the portfolio and everything. So.
Yeah, exactly.
But, I think as realtors, we probably see the same increase in those same areas that, people are starting to spread out to as far as the overflow.
Right.
Yeah. It's kind of like what I said, if you have your radius, put a dot and then draw 30 minutes outside.
So
and even go
true.
further out to decide where to buy the property. So this is a perfect example of that. Now, are you seeing that rents are starting to increase this year, or do you have any trends to share?
Oh, gosh, it's incredible how much it's kind of makes me sad, to be honest with you. Because I mean, I have a heart for people that still can't buy.
Mhm.
But my business is not to be too soft-hearted about that. My business is to get the most money for my investors.
Mhm.
So I am seeing rents go up. I don't know what the percentage would be. I'm going to say overall speaking, I'm going to say probably between 12 and 15%.
Wow.
Yeah, it's really going up a lot. Yeah. Yeah, the house I was telling you that I had 23 applications for, last year, we were the highest priced in that area within a 1 mile for that particular type of home, which was a 3-bedroom townhome. It went for 1,400 or 1,425, something like that, 1,400. Anyway, and so this year we put it on the market for 1,650 because we were like, wow, that's $250 more a month. And nothing has rented for 1,650 in the comparable area. And that's the one that we got the 23 applications for. We ended up getting $1,920 a month for that particular property. So it's crazy. It really is. But people have a lot more money than you think they do too. I'm just saying. People have a lot more money than they say.
Yeah. Now, I have a question about, like, as far as the past year, with the pandemic and as
Mhm.
far as the moratorium on evictions and things like that,
Mhm.
how has that affected, your clientele as far as?
Well, I can't speak for any other company, so I
Okay.
can only speak about how it
Mhm.
affected Above All Property Management. We had, within our portfolio, we had 2 tenants that were having some hardship issues. One was not related to COVID at all. He
Mhm.
was having issues, kidney failure, and he was having to go through Medicaid, whatever, life was happening. And he just said, hey, can you guys help me out, for a month or so? And I called the owner goes, yeah, I'll help him out versus not getting paid at all. Sure. And so that particular owner said, yeah, let's give him $400 off for the next 2 months. I mean, he was very happy. I had one other instance where a young woman chose to take a job in another city because she didn't want to suffer the uncertainty of her job continuing. And so, but again, it was nothing imminent. It was nothing in writing. She just didn't feel comfortable. So she left, and our owner had given her a discount on one of her months. It ended up not playing out very well for her because she was very dishonest about everything. And so we went ahead and did some collection efforts and got all of the money back for our owner. But other than that, those 2 specific instances, everybody paid on time.
Excuse me.
And we never had anyone say, oh, I can't pay because of COVID. But let me say this too. We also have a price point of mostly dual incomes. Okay. And so we have people that are specifically set up to be able to pay for their rent. And that's part of our tenant screening. Owners are asking me all the time, do you prefer 1 income or 2? That is the famous answer of all realtors. It depends, right? And so I just let people know it depends, because if you have a 1 income earner and nobody has ever worked, the secondary person has never worked, co-applicant, then that can be just as risky as 2 people in an industry that is not always secure. So you have to kind of look at their behaviors, their past behaviors, to kind of predict how they're going to respond going forward.
Mhm.
So
It's interesting to say that, because I do have that question too. A lot of people ask me, like, far as when I'm renting out a property, what are some of the things that I look for in the application process for a
Right.
tenant? And I know I'm a lot different, because I do kind of the same thing you said. The latter end is that it's kind of like their history. What is it? They have the job as consistency. They have the willingness to pay. They have a reason. then,
Sure.
that works. That tells me a lot more about their ethic than a lot of some of the
Right.
things I see on paper as far as credit reports and all. So
Exactly.
I think that's one of the biggest questions too, is how do I get people qualified, and what do I kind of draw my line and my criteria I'm looking
Yeah.
for.
So because of fair housing, for investors, when you're working with a professional company, management company, because there are so many federal laws in place, I just have a hard stop. You don't get to know anything about this person. You get to know their applicant A, B, C, or D. You don't get to know anything about them. There are some things that are going to be evident. If I say credit scores are X and Y, you're going to know there's at least 2 adults in that home. That's all you're going to know. If they have 50 kids, you don't get to know that. If they have 1 kid, you don't get to know that. So because of the fair housing, and because I am an absolute stickler of sticking to the law of things, because I know this, when I stick to the law is behind me. The law protects me. So I think that the most telling thing, LaDondria, is that stability of job speaks volumes, because it tells me that person is stable, right? Stability of job, we're stable, or stability of career path. If they worked in an auto shop, then they were on a wait staff, then they worked at Starbucks, and now they're whatever in real estate. And then they did, if they're just skipping around in life, that's telling you a big story. They're not staying in the same place very long. And so I think that that's very telling to me as the person who's pre-screening. So I communicate those kind of things, because that's not a protected class. If you're, I call them job hoppers. If you're a job hopper, that's not a protected class. And so I tell the owner, so applicant, and I'll call them, so if we have dual applicants, applicant and co-applicant, and we have 2 jobs we're talking about, I say applicant A1, applicant A2, right? They still don't get to know him or her or anything about that. So you just have to be really careful about all of that.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And owners on a regular basis, pardon me, investors on a regular basis, they really do want you to,
They wanna know.
they
Yeah.
want to know stuff that
Yeah.
you're like, I'm really sorry, we
Yeah.
can't disclose that.
Right. And the same with us, we're looking when someone asks, well, who lives here, things like that, or what school, those things that we don't talk, we
Yeah.
don't discuss. So
If tenants ask stuff like that, I just tell them, if that's important to you, you should drive around the neighborhood during times when you can. And you'll get to see what the neighborhood is like.
Yeah, absolutely.
So,
Now, you've talked a lot about what you do as a company of services, but what part of it falls on the landlord? What's the landlord's responsibilities?
well, when you have a home professionally managed, it's different than if you're not licensed and managing a home on your own. You don't have to go by any of the rules. You really don't. But the rules that we go for is the contract. We use the North Carolina standard contracts, just so y'all know. That if you ever want to go read it, it's boring. It'll make you fall asleep, but it'll have a whole couple of different paragraphs on what the owner is responsible for. Basically, the owner has to maintain a habitable home. If anything breaks, we have to do all that we can to make sure that whatever it is in the process of getting repaired at some point in time. And microwave that just went out is not going to cause this home to be not habitable. The air conditioning not working is not going to cause the home to be uninhabitable. Very inconvenient and very hot in North Carolina in the summer, but still not anything that makes the home uninhabitable. What makes the home uninhabitable is if you have some structural issues it makes it unsafe. If you have a rat infestation or a squirrel infestation, because squirrels are considered rodents. So if you have a rodent infestation, the owner needs to take care of that. But as far as like spiders or roaches, I don't know if y'all live in North Carolina, but roaches kind of come with the territory. Ooh, gross, but it happens. And so those big things, they come inside. They don't live inside, but they typically will come inside to get cooled off or to get water. So the owner just has to maintain the structural integrity. And if it came with the house or if it conveyed, it has to stay functioning.
Yeah.
You can't just go, oh, well, I don't want to buy another refrigerator. Well, I'm sorry. You have to. You have to.
Yeah.
So
So a lot of these things I always say is like cost of doing business, right?
exactly so.
Mhm.
And this is what I tell so many people. It's like I hear myself say it in my sleep. It is your reward, but it is your risk.
Mhm.
It is your risk. Because they want to know what am I going to pay for? I'm like, oh no.
You
No,
own it.
you is your home.
Understood. Well, Shalon, you shared so much information with us, that I know a lot of you may have heard or may be aware of or may not, but I definitely think diving into it a little bit gives us enough knowledge and tools to at least speak intelligently with our investor clients. So does anyone have any questions for Shalon? As it relates to property management?
This is really specific, but do you have a recommendation for people with pets? I mean, what do you tell your investors when it comes to pets?
That is something that comes up. Some investors have pet aversion. They do. It's okay. I get it. And so we say, okay, no problem. But do understand if you have a therapy animal, an ADA animal, or a therapy animal, then all bets are off. Those animals are allowed whether you like them or you don't like them. So 62 or 67% of Americans have a pet. Yes, ma'am.
Do you find that since that rule came to be that everyone has a therapy animal?
Yes, and we have a wonderful screening company that we employ called petscreening.com. And so if the animal is a therapy animal or an ADA compliant animal, then they go through pet screening and it's free. And it gets confirmed that they are indeed. Because here's the thing about therapy animals, they have to be prescribed. I guess that's what you call it. I don't know. They have to be prescribed by a mental health professional, not your general practitioner. So you can ask for the mental health professional's recommendation letter. That's one thing we can ask for. If it is an ADA compliant animal, you cannot go any further than that. And that's what we used to do before we had pet screening, the company pet screening. We used to say, is this a therapy animal or is it an ADA compliant animal? And then based on their answer, we'd go, okay, thank you very much. Sign here for your application. So
you normally would recommend your investors?
I do,
to
because
be able
if
to
you
allow
don't, you got 62 to 67% of the population that are not going to be able to see your home.
That makes
And what if the little pet is like a 10-pound bulldog? Or I don't know if a bulldog is 10 pounds, but French, what kind of dogs are 10 pounds? I don't know. Yeah.
Shih Tzu or
Okay. Yeah. You can tell I don't do it dogs. So
fur versus,
yeah. So yeah. And with our company, we make sure that the tenant has to leave the home in the condition in which they received it, minus normal wear and tear. And that includes getting rid of any pet smell. So we require them to steam clean the carpets, and they have to use a product called Odor Ban. And Odor Ban is a organic product that eats up smells. That's the lay word, eats up smells. You like that?
Mhm.
Yeah, gonna go do a commercial for Odor Ban. Did you have a question? Oh, sorry. Yes, ma'am.
Do you ever have Section 8?
Our company does not work with Section 8, but many companies do. There's a lot of hoops you got to run through. And if you have, I don't know, a broken switch plate, right? They can withhold your rent until the switch plate gets investigated and re-inspected. And so that can be sometimes 3 to 6 weeks because they're not coming back around to that area. So it's not something that I want to work with.
we have one in the chat. Do you handle rentals in all states? If not, can you refer them to someone in California?
I can refer them to someone in California. We're in North Carolina, actually TMLS only. We're legally can do work all through, but then we wouldn't be able to advertise it through an MLS.
Same
So
with us.
yeah.
I think it's time to go national.
I agree.
I'm gonna say a review real quick for fun, but
I was with another rental agency before I was with Shalon, and night and day difference. You know, my client, my renters got a nice welcome basket and just, you know, just above and beyond, because that's what
Thank you.
your, right? And property management company's called it. And then I feel like I don't even have rentals. I mean, I think you're managing 6 or 7 now, and they hound us like, hey, this is wrong. Can you do it? And they find the people, the contractors. I mean, it's really been a blessing. So, but you do, whoever's watching or in this room, I would definitely recommend you
Thank you. very
to
much.
all of the.
I appreciate
clients.
that. I appreciate that.
I say I tell all my clients she's a pit bull and we want that.
Yeah.
I'm scared of her, so I'll be scared of her.
Well, here's the deal. You know, you don't have to be mean. You have to be kind and you have to be firm. And even if you have to, I've never had to evict a tenant that I've placed, just so you can let your investors know that. We have 0 evictions in the 17 years that I've been doing this. And so here's the thing. I have been hired to evict people and I've been paid thousands of dollars to do that. But, and you can do it without being mean-hearted. You can just, you talk to them, they're human beings. Hey, look, I know you're going through a rough time right now, but you cannot afford to stay here anymore. And our owner needs to re-rent this property. So you need to go ahead and get this tough taken care of. We're going to do the legal part of it. And that sounds all harsh, but we're not being harsh with you. This one particular gentleman, he had just lost his wife. I get it, but he hadn't paid rent in like 60 days. Sir, I am so sorry, but you can't continue to live here. He understood. He was so nice. And, but nevertheless, he delayed in getting things done. He delayed in getting out. We had to change the locks. We had to get the sheriff involved. I mean, it was a long, detailed issue. Not one time did I ever act like it was a personal vendetta to get this man out of the home. I treated him very kindly. I treated him with respect, but he had to get out, right? And so I have been called a pit bull before, but I just want to let you know, it's not because I have any kind of meanness with me, but trust me, don't trifle with my owners, right? Because they're not in it for a charity. If they were, they'd be having a 501c3 or they'd have a nonprofit. They would have it in a different way. And that's a totally different conversation.
Yep, so
Sorry,
that
I got chatty about that.
No, that's good though. Well, it validates the reason why an investor would want to use a property manager. Just imagine investors as we get from all over, you know, the US here right now
Mhm.
is having that confidence that they have someone like you that would be able to help in those situations. You know, you just never know.
Yeah, you don't.
Yeah.
So I had a couple of things that I just wanted to like maybe just throw out there for you guys to even consider. When you're doing your research for your property management companies, you need to find out how many evictions do you have to deal with per year? Point blank, how many evictions do you have to deal? I promise you, I know this, unless my competitor here has only been here in business for a year or 2, none of them can say 0, not one of them. And so make sure that you're putting them with the company that places quality tenants in those homes. That's super, super important. So, make sure that your property management company goes out and does inspections. I just got a new house under management this year. And I did my first inspection with the tenant, and we call them at-home visits. We're going to do an at-home visit. But anyway, we did our first inspection just to see what the house looked like, right? That tenant told me that the previous property management firm had not been out there in 3 years. You think they're taking care of the market value of that home? No, they're not. Okay, so just because the property management is cheap doesn't mean that's the best return on your investment. So remember that. I think I already gave a little practical story about that. Make sure that they don't just manage the accounting books. Okay, because some people will say, I'm a property manager. And what they're really saying is I take in the rent, I pay me, and then I pay you. They don't oversee any of the management or maintaining the value of the home. They don't do the inspections. They're not really helping you maintain the value of your home. And when you want to go sell that home, when I send that person back to you, LaDondria, you don't want to have to spend $40,000 in that home getting it market ready, do you? Exactly. So that's why it's important to know that, you know, you need somebody to do that. 3 quick things about above all property management. Realtors get the best deals. Okay, you get our deepest discounts. And if you're interested in that, I'll tell you a little bit more about that. our referral fee to you for full management is 50% of that first tenant placed. So for example, the property, it was an inside the Beltline property and it rented for $3,400. That agent made a $1,700 referral check.
Ask Ashley, she's got.
That's a comma, right?
Mhm.
That's a comma. Anytime you got a comma, that's a sexy check. Yeah, yeah. So, and because we don't do general brokerage, we're not going to compete with you. Even if the owner says, hey, but I've been talking with you every month, since for 4 years, I'm still going to say, yeah, but LaDondria, she's your lady. I don't do general brokerage. She's the one you want. And so again, I chat you up and I send you back to your person.
I have a
So-
client that has 3 properties. for sale.
Yes. I love him, by the way. He's such a cool person.
I'll get-
Whenever he calls, I'm like, oh, and he's like, really? And I'm like, yeah, you're like fun to talk to. Yeah, nice guy.
I did see on your site about financial reporting. You kind of touched a little bit. What is the financial reporting that you do?
Well, so we have lots of different reports, but financial reporting that we do is end of the year.
Mhm.
We have income and expense reports that we send out if they request it. I mean, it's there for them, but most of my investors, they don't go on our website and look at anything. So we'll send it out to them. And in our platinum package, we don't charge anything for that. We do charge for do-it-yourselfers because they don't have an option. But anyway, so for income and expenses, we also upload, we have a 24-hour portal. I think most people probably have that these days, at least in this area. But they can go online at any time during the month and see any of the invoices. We don't upcharge anything. Some companies do. Y'all got to ask those kind of questions. Do you upcharge the maintenance? Because they'll do it fractionally, right? But you have, 150 houses fractionally upcharging each maintenance thing. It's a source of revenue, but we don't do that.
I just know that when you're trying to keep track of everything and you want to know what where your expenses were for each property,
Right.
That's a value.
Yeah. And then we do a property owner statement. So if they have more than multiple, they have 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 or 10 properties with us, then they get every property all in one, like a total. And then they can also do individual reports for each property to see which property is actually, more profitable.
Right. I think that's a huge value, especially when you have investors buying multiple properties.
Yeah.
They may not be keeping up with.
The other thing you may want to ask also, and I just pulled our numbers last week, is what is your retention with your tenants? What are you doing to maintain tenant loyalty? So as Tina mentioned, we do a welcome basket. It has a lot of little different things in it, but including functional things like paper towels, soap, and toilet paper when you move in. And then we give them a bottle of wine. We give them their first meal. Starbucks card. We just kind of give them a whole lot of little stuff, right? But then once a year, we do a year-end inspection and we bring them a bottle of wine. If they don't drink wine, we bring them sparkling juice because we want to be sensitive to people that don't drink alcohol. And we just say, hey, Merry Christmas. We appreciate you. Thank you so much for taking care of our home. Thank you so much that you pay rent on time. We appreciate you. We value you. Is there anything else that we can do to make your stay here better? And sometimes they're like, no, it's great. We love it. And other times you'll hear things like, I've been here 7 years. Can the owner paint the house, you think? Hey, let me go to that owner and find out. It's cheaper for them to paint that house than to turn a tenant over.
Right.
So.
Awesome. Lots of great information. Thank you so much for being here and sharing with us.
You're welcome.
I'm gonna miss this, but where did you say the best places for rent are right now? Humanitarian, like still on top, or
You know
where?
what? It's best where you can make a profit.
So, I feel like
Yeah.
you're getting higher rents for smaller square footage though. Like
Yeah.
Humanitarian houses,
Yeah.
1,600 square feet. Are you getting 2,000? Like where? Because we used to say like $1 per foot. Like where are you?
Yeah. And I would say that the swath is a little bit wider than that, 85 cents to about $1.05, and depends on where you are. Like the house that I just told you about in Morrisville, rented for $34.95. Well, it's over 4,000 square feet. They're not getting $1 per square foot, right? So it just depends. And I would say that per square foot, smaller homes typically perform stronger. But I tend to love southern western Wake, like down. I love that area. I think it's 540 is just a dream come true.
Holly Springs has picked up like that.
I do.
It's gotten a little-
I do. Holly Springs is very competitive in the time on the market. Fuquay is still a little bit slower on the market. Still performs well, just a little slower on the market. You know, you're not going to see the shark frenzy in Fuquay. You're just not. Not that I'm aware of. I've not seen it. I've seen it in Cary multiple times. I've seen it in Apex multiple times.
And where would you send renters that are looking for like 3 to 6 months? Do you have any people that are doing
So at
that?
different time, I have to send them elsewhere. I don't know of anybody currently doing that as a, so sorry. I don't see anybody doing that as a part of their portfolio. It depends on different times of the year. So if I have an owner that bought in November or December, then I'm going to recommend to them, let's entertain a short-term rental. Let's get somebody in here now. And we did that a golf course in Preston. The lady wanted a short-term rental because she just knew she was going to be here in July. Well, guess what? She ain't. But we found a short-term renter. And so now when that rent turns over in July, we're going to go for a longer term rental. So, but we had to go down on our pricing because not too many people are moving around in that time of year. So come summer, probably next week or in the next couple of weeks, we'll be putting it back on the market for $34.95 when we only got $29.95 in December. So it all depends. My favorite answer.
So direct.
I know, right?
Isn't a conflict of interest to tell us where you send people for short-term rentals?
It's not a conflict of interest. I tell them to go to Craigslist and go to Zillow Rents and put in short-term rentals and look for them. I honestly don't know of another agency around here. And because those are my competitors, I tell them, have fun. Google short-term rentals in Cary
Or Airbnbs.
or Airbnbs. Now, I have recommended that as well.
My Airbnb, there's a discount if they rent for a month, and I've had a guy
Okay.
rent for 3 months because there was
Oh,
a leak
cool.
in his kitchen and he just wanted it and for 3 months. So
Wonderful.
they can do that on Airbnb.
Okay, I have suggested that. I have suggested that people look at
Much more
Airbnbs.
expensive,
Sure,
$3,500 for a house in Sanford per month, but their insurance pays for it.
right,
So for them, they don't care what the cost is,
correct.
which is great for us Airbnbers.
That's exactly right. So what she said.
Are you seeing that there's are you still seeing that, the flow of the season? Is it kind of becoming more neutral as far as like, because we have less rentals out there, like in December? Do you think it still slows, or January, February, where you'd say, yeah, we pick up in April? Are you seeing it be still really?
So
competitive
this
then?
year, I did see that. In 2021, I did not.
Okay.
December, January, and February were not slow for us
Okay.
at all.
This year you saw it.
And this year I had houses sitting on the market for 30 and 60 days when they went active in January.
Okay.
And prior to COVID, you had seasons?
Prior to COVID, I'm going to say that the slower months were pretty much almost exclusively December, January, and February. And I used to say, oh, I get a 3-month vacation every year because it was like, oh my gosh, I'll see y'all at 10 o'clock. So yeah, but this year I did see a slowing down in January, February, and March. But then in April, it really picked back up. So
Any more questions?
Thanks.
Thank you, Shamar.
you're welcome. Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
Your next series is.
Oh, yeah, my next series, we don't have the date yet.
Oh, no? Good.
Not the date, but it is in June. So the next, it'll be the last series, part 4. I'm thinking that I want to do some testimonials, have some, give some people who have invested in real estate the opportunity to share what their experiences are. Maybe get some encouragement going for those who are maybe still sitting on the sideline, haven't gotten in the game yet. Just to, give some honest feedback. So
That's good.
Thank you.
Thank you for
Thank
having me.
you.
I appreciate it.
Oh, thank you, Shalon. I appreciate you being here.